this episode, we will discuss one of the most frequently asked questions about money. How can I make sure that I don't run out of money before I die? So we're going to give insight into why this happens and what you can do to make sure it doesn't happen to you. She's Holly, and she helps people find financial freedom.
He's Nate. He makes sense out of money. This is Dollars and Nonsense. If you follow the herd, you will be slaughtered. I want to make sure my family has money when I die.
It's a very important question. It's a big fear for everybody. Like, if you're in your 30s, am I on the right track? Or will I get to the end of the line and be 70 years old and I'm just way short?
And I think we do see it becoming a bigger concern over years, because there was people that saved, that were frugal, that really were wise with their money. And now they are 70 or 80 and realizing, I don't have enough money to live. What am I going to do? And it wasn't, and I'm going to be honest, it's not because they were spenders or they didn't plan ahead accordingly. When they came up with the idea of, I'm going to have $1 million of retirement per se, that was an enormous number to them at the time they came up with it.
Yeah, and man, $1 million does not seem like what it used to. So we're going to get into that. One thing I wanted to mention just really quick too, it just came to my mind, was that Holly and I, we both don't like the idea of retirement very much. You can go back to previous podcasts. You can hear about that. We've also had a guy on our podcast that we really admire, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, who talks about how important it is to get retirement out of your mindset. And honestly, I was just thinking of it right now, that I know a way to alleviate the fear of running out of money for most people. Get retirement out of your life. It's like,
exactly.
It's like you
don't retire.
Yeah, that's a great one. I think the goal should not be retirement. The goal should be building wealth. That can enable you to retire. That can enable you to leave a legacy. That can enable you to give. A lot of things, but as Rabbi Daniel Lapin would put it, one of our big missions has to be to help people and produce value. That's what gives us pleasure and meaning in this world and a reason to wake up every day. No matter what we just say in this about helping you do it, it is true that if you get the retirement idea out of your mind, then you're not going to be worried, am I going to outlive my money? You're just going to work and you're going to produce value in some way as long as you can. It can't be forever unless you're like Nelson Nash. Nelson Nash, creator of the banking concept, just died earlier this year, was still doing seminars in his mid-80s. That's the dream, to have such a passion for what you do that you love going to work and you're in your 80s. You look at Warren Buffett. You look at some of these other greats. They don't just hang it up because they're passionate. So we encourage you to become passionate about something, especially if you can find passion in what you're doing. But apart from that, we are here to help you.
Yes.
So there's some reasons why there's a gap between how much people have saved and how much they actually needed to. So we're going to talk about why this has become an issue, especially today. Then we're going to talk about some ideas of how you can help yourself not fall into that same trap. Number one, just came to me right now. If you get it out of your mentality, it won't be such a concern to you when you hit that point. Because I find the people who are most worried about money are those who are about to retire. They're about to say, I'm going to hang it up. I'm never going to come back. I got to make sure that whatever I've built is enough.
My aunt just retired yesterday. It was her last day working. And in my head, what are you going to do now? And this is all she's known, only place she's ever worked.
Yeah, I mean, it can be exciting. The excitement wears off and the worries start to come in. When you're in your 80s and you retired when you're 65, you spent 15 years now, it's not as exciting anymore. And now that question of, is this money going to last? Is the stock market going to crumble? Is inflation going to ruin my money I have saved? I'd like to start just with the reasons why it happens. We've already been mentioning one. You already mentioned it too. Is
we have a dollar amount in our head. It seems like a lot of money at the time we say it. I'm going to go a little bit further and say we have a dollar amount, but really it's a number in our head, $1 million.
Right.
And even now, I'm going to have $1 million. I'm going to have $2 million. I have this much, whatever that number is, but we don't actually see it through the lens of inflation and the inflational dollar.
$1 million sounds like a lot today. If you're 30 and you look at these charts and you see all the money you're going to have in the future if you continue on the path you're on, whether that's infinite banking, whether that's retirement, whatever path you're on that's going to be growing, man, I'm going to have so much money. As Ray Poteet, our mentor, has taught us many times, numbers and money are not the same thing.
They are not.
3 plus 3 plus 3 is always 9, but $3 plus $3 plus $3 It is always $9, but that $9 is not the same thing as it once was. And in the future, it will not be the same. So one of the reasons why people fall short, as we're talking about, is because they think they're on the right track to have enough. But when you get to that point, we don't know how much that money is going to be worth. And that can be a scary thing.
And that dollar amount isn't a number amount. We decide this when we're 30, 35, maybe 40. You decide what this dollar amount is. We have no idea 30 years down the road, 40 years down the road, what that dollar amount is actually going to provide for us.
Yeah.
How much of it is taxable? How much is Social Security? How much? All these questions we can't answer.
Exactly. And so I think that because it looks so big to us today, 30 years down the road, the numbers look big. We think, oh, I'm going to be fine on the track I'm on. But that's one thing we've seen is that people planned. They saw a big number. They thought they were doing enough to get what they needed. And one of the reasons why people are running out of money before they die is because the number looked big to them, but the dollars just weren't worth what they thought they were going to be. Another big issue is that people think that these retirement programs, these stock market, mutual fund based assets, they think that they can pull more money safely than what you really can. If you had $1 million and you walk into like a retirement, like $1 million in like a 401k or an IRA, something with mutual funds as their main basis. If you walk into a retirement planning office, they sit you down, they look at your portfolio, you ask them how much money you can normally take out of your portfolio. $1 million, they'll say today, if you want to be pretty darn sure, like 90% sure that you're not going to outlive your money, they're going to tell you that on your per million, you're going to be able to pull out about 35 grand or about 3.5%.
And most of you out there, I mean, I'm just going to ask you, those of you that have retired or are retiring or thinking about retiring, or even if you're 30 or 40 right now, and I can go back to my 30s and I was roughly making around $36,000 a year. And I can tell you that when I turned 65 or 70, $35,000 would not have cut it 40 years down the road. It wouldn't even have cut it. It's not even what I was making 30 years previous. Yet that's what you're supposed to live on to conservatively have enough money. Right. So you don't run out of money. I mean, that's the reality. How many of you guys actually can live on quite a bit less? I'm talking less than 100% less than what I was making 30 years before. I got to live on less than that. And it's 30 years in the future.
That does not seem to compute to most of us. The fact that I've got $1 million and you're saying to me that I can only pull out 35,000 if I want to be like 90% sure that I won't run out of money before we die. For those of you who don't know, the reason why is they have this thing called the Monte Carlo simulation. So what they do is they look back over a period of time and they look at the probability of pulling out $35,000 over 100 years. So we don't know what the markets are going to do. The day you retire, you're 65, you're 70, you're saying, I'm hanging up and I'm heading to the golf course, whatever it is. We don't know the future. So the biggest concern is if, especially early on, if you have a stock market crash early on, if you were to retire in 2005, 2006, and a few years into retirement, you lose half of your account, you're probably going to run out of money before you die, unless you were only pulling out a little bit. That's what they're trying to say, I guess, in this Monte Carlo simulation is they call it a withdrawal rate. Like, yes. Can I pull out 3% of my money? Can I pull out 4% and so forth? You can pull out more than 35 grand, but that just starts to increase your chance of running out of money before you die. Like they ran at like an 8% withdrawal rate. So if you had $1 million, could you pull out 80,000 a year? And if you want to do that for like 25 years, you have a 50% chance of running out of money. We think that the money's a lot.
Yes.
And we think we can pull more than we actually can. So we end up getting here. The dollars have been devalued. They're not even worth what we were hoping to. So the big pile of money doesn't seem as big anymore. And then we get hit with this idea that, oh yeah, I can barely pull any money out of this thing if I want to make sure I don't die before I run out of money. Or I make sure I do die before I run out. I don't run out before I die. Those are some big headwinds against us, some misconceptions or some misunderstandings that people we just don't put into place while we're planning for this stuff.
Have you ever wondered how to stop worrying and just make and keep more of your money? We believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in defying conventional wealth tools while maintaining traditional values. After all, most of those conventional tools only ever seem to make someone else on the inner circle rich. You can become debt-free, in control, secure, and achieve financial significance. Private family financing can be used in your life and even your business. Let us help set you free from worry. Visit livingwealth.com/freedom to receive your free copy of the Tree of Wealth. You'll learn about the tools banks themselves use and rarely speak about openly. These are the strategies used to launch Disney, JCPenney's, and countless successful families. For more than 46 years, Living Wealth has focused on treating clients with respect and honesty while helping them achieve financial freedom. Learn how to turn your hard work into significance. Visit livingwealth.com/freedom to instantly receive your free copy of the Tree of Wealth. You'll be enabled to have cash today and in the future. It's more than mere infinite banking. It's private family financing. Don't let banks and Wall Street dictate your financial future. Go to livingwealth.com/freedom to instantly receive your free copy of the Tree of Wealth. Now, back to Nate and Holly.
Just think and ask yourself right now, if we look at the Monte Carlo effect and what they say, do you honestly believe that when you are 65 or 70, okay, I'm 45 right now, so I'm just going to date myself. If I say at 65, I'm going to retire 20 years from now, can I live on $3,000 a month? That's $36,000 a year. No, I'm just going to be honest. Right now, today, I couldn't live on that.
Oh, no.
And that's not counting my spouse, kids. I honestly could not afford to live where I'm at. We got to start looking at this in reality. We are so dependent on what everybody else has told us. Oh, you're safe because you put money into the 401k. Oh, there's a retirement program out there. Oh, when I get to be 65, you're going to have to pay less in taxes and you're going to have less living expense and stuff like that.
Well, that's a good thing you point out, is that most people when they're planning, they say, oh, don't worry, taxes will be less. You won't need to replace all your income. They say all these things, and guess what that means to us? That says to us, oh yeah, that means I don't have to save as much because my taxes aren't going to be as high. People are trying to get, what's the minimum I have to save to just be able to retire and be okay? I'm like, no. Let's assume the freaking worst happens.
Yes.
Taxes are way higher. The inflation's crazy. Then we make a plan. If you're 70, you can't get the time back. You can't go back 20 years before and prep for the reality. So if we plan for taxes being higher, or if we do like infinite banking where we don't have to worry about the taxes, then we're in a better shape. Regardless, we've taken that risk away, taken that worry away, and the same thing about the volatility of the market.
And even Ray, our mentor, said this the other day to me. He said he wished he knew what he's learned in the last 15 years he knew in the first 30 years of business. How different the landscape really would be. And just by changing things, the ability he's been able to do to create what we call living wealth, a legacy, right? Nate said, get retirement out of your head. We're really talking about creating wealth that still lives and survives generation to generation, but survives and you're able to use it while you're still alive.
Exactly right. We talked about what are some of the issues, why we end up running out of money. Now, I'd like to give some suggestions here on how to make sure it doesn't happen to you. First off, one of the recommendations that the world has is that, if more employers would offer these employer-sponsored programs, if everyone had a 401k, which I think is ridiculous, by the way, because the people who have 401ks are really not any better off. But what I'm trying to say is the first thing I would mention is you got to take ownership of this thing. That's the first problem. No, I don't care if employers offer you a program or not. It's your retirement, not theirs. They're not here to look after you and nanny you. The government shouldn't have to do that, though that's what some people would want them to do. But regardless, you have to start taking ownership. I'm not going to just kick the can out. I'm not going to hope that it all works out. I'm going to figure out a plan to make sure I don't run out of money. That's going to be step number one in all of this.
And understanding if you are doing those, and I'm going to say ownership is key here. You are responsible for yourself and your retirement and your future. It is actually not your employer's job to be concerned about that.
And they don't do a very good job. It's deceptive to me. Like, in other words, people think that, I'm putting money in my 401k, I'm going to be okay. That's a deception. That is not okay. Just because you're putting money into a 401k does not mean you're going to be okay. Have you actually looked at it? Do you know what it's doing? Do you know what it's going to be there? You probably don't because the stock market, we don't really know, but do you have an idea? I think the fact that employer programs work is that we can follow the herd, and we might end up getting slaughtered. You've heard us say that many times. We just get plugged into the company program, start putting money in. We think we're doing okay at that point. We think we're going to be okay because that's what everyone else is doing. And what we're saying is, no, that you got to take more ownership than that. So it can be deceiving.
And
so we got to do other things.
And the fact that you get an annual report most of the time.
That we don't read.
That you don't read. And I even had a client say this to me. The only thing they looked at was whether the average rate of return, which is different than actual, but the average, as long as it was positive, they were okay. Irregardless of knowing what happened last year, they really had no idea what was going on because, well, it was positive. It wasn't, our average rate of return was like 2%. Oh, great. What they didn't realize is maybe when it went negative for a few months and then it went back positive, like they lost some money, but they had no concept because, well, I'm just doing exactly what Nate said. I'm following the herd.
Exactly right. That's what we're trying to combat to some degree. So we have this issue where people are not taking ownership. We got to get that done. But secondly, we've talked about how these market-based assets, because of the volatility associated with them, we can't pull as much as you think without fear of running out of money because we don't know when the next crash is going to happen. So they say you got to be safe. If you want to have a high probability, pull out less. What does that tell us? Maybe you should try to look for assets or things that you can pull more income out and know that you're not going to run out of money. So those things would be like, we talk about infinite banking, whole life insurance policies here. Those are guaranteed to grow every single year. So we know exactly how much money we can take out without fear of running out of money. And it's more than 3 to 3.5% of your cash flows you can pull out. So by switching where the asset is, we can actually pull more income from it without risking running out of money. The same thing could be real estate. There's a lot of alternative assets that don't have market risk that we can know that actually produce passive income, which we talk about. So instead of having the whole stock market thing where you actually have to sell your assets, you have to literally go in and whatever price they're selling for, that's what you sell them for. So instead of selling your assets and liquidating your positions to produce income, which is just a means to an end, you've got to have one that produces income and then you just live off what it can produce.
Yes, we're absolutely proponents of infinite banking and dividend paying whole life insurance, 100%. And the reason why is, irregardless of what happens with our taxes, Nate, irregardless of really the economy, it's in a safe program, if you want to call it that. It's something you control, you own, that grows tax-free for you, that the money's there in the future as well as today. We've gotten into the system of just putting the money in, and I'm going to go back to the 401k. Most of you, if you ask yourself this right now, if you're contributing to the 401k, how much money are you putting in each month? Majority of people I talk to can't even tell me that because it doesn't get deposited in their bank, it just gets taken out of their paycheck. So they literally have no idea exactly how much is leaving their paycheck every month because they've never seen it. You've never lived on it anyways. Okay, I'm only saying instead of doing that, maybe start making it deposit into your own bank account and putting it into a life insurance policy.
Yeah, and that all comes from that ownership, taking control, taking responsibility for it.
And you don't have to wait to use it. I mean, I think it is very crazy that we are putting money in something that we have to wait to use.
And we're penalized to use it now. Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's what we're trying to combat is not only what's going to happen 30 years from now, but what you can do during that time frame to free up your life, which is what we're big proponents on, but also something that in the future we can pull income from at a high level without risk of running out of money. So we can solve for that. But even if you don't want to do infinite banking, that's okay. If you're just listening to the podcast and you're brand new to it, what you need to change in your mentality is not, and we've talked about this before, you got to get out of nest egg mentality and into income mentality. So instead of just producing a big nest egg that could be here one day, because like a nest egg in a retirement program, it's not real money. It's a valuation. We've seen that change dramatically, obviously. That's what they call volatility. Yes. One day your nest egg could be $1 million, then the next day it could be 600,000. We just don't know, depending on what the market's going to do. So all that to say, get out of the nest egg mentality, go into the income, something that produces value that's not based on a valuation, that's just guaranteed to come. Like rental income is not guaranteed, but it's not based on some valuation. You're getting rental income. The same thing with a policy. You're getting guaranteed cash value increase. We know that. It's different than some sort of random valuation. Get into a place that's producing income that you don't have to sell to produce income. And I think you'll find yourself able to control the fact that you can make it without running out of money pretty easily.
And we really want you guys to do something that's better for you. Is a 401k the best place to put your money? Only you really know the answer to that, or better yet, ask yourself why you did it to begin with. Chances are most people do it because everybody else was doing it, or it seemed like a good idea, or in your mindset, it meant you didn't have to save anymore. It was taking care of your future for you.
I find that happens so often is that people don't like to think about it because it stresses them out, or to some degree. They like to just have it taken out of their paycheck and hope it all turns out okay. It's going to stress you out now, or when you get there and you didn't do enough, it's probably going to stress you out then. So you can avoid the issues of most of the problems of running out of money by changing the herd system based on Wall Street programs sponsored by the government. Those systems are so shaky that you're going to have this fear of running out of money no matter what. It's going to exist whether it's today or in the future, or probably both. So if you can start building assets that you control, that produce income, that are not so shaky, then we know we can live and we know how much we can pull. We can make a plan and you can feel good about it. That's the essence of it.
And I think too, what Nate said initially in the beginning, having the mindset of not retiring, having the mindset of creating wealth, a residual income for you, not a retirement. Whatever avenue you take to achieve that, you want to be of value and worth to society, whether you're 65, 30, 20, 10, 75, 80. And one of the ways of doing that is creating for yourself living wealth that resides, that is residual, that you can keep using and growing, and you control. And for us, the best way of doing that is through infinite banking. But for yourself, it might be a different plan of action. But really evaluate how you're going to get to where you want to go, and not just looking at a number and equating that number to a dollar amount. What is it you want to do? And really for your life. I thought it was brilliant. I'm just going to say that, just get retirement out of your mind. And you're honestly 90%.
The question is pretty much over at that point.
Yeah. You're not going to run out of money if your mindset is, how much do I need to not work anymore, not to do anything?
Very rarely do you find someone who's like, man, I really oversaved for this thing. It's like, normally it's, man, I wish I would have done more. And that's, if we can solve that by doing what we suggested, or you can just stop the idea of an end date of my career is going to end when I'm 65. Find a way to produce value, and you can get rid of that issue. You're not scared. That's the way God made it. All right, well, guys, this has been Dollars and Nonsense. If you follow the herd, you will be slaughtered.
For free transcripts and resources, please visit livingwealth.com/E73.